Bring Me the Horizon. A band that, in less than 2 decades, went from a small Sheffield metalcore act to one of the most influential names in modern rock. But behind the stadiums, sold-out tours, and viral hits, there was a period when everything almost fell apart. Oli Sykes, the charismatic frontman, found himself trapped in a cycle of addiction, self-doubt, and the pressure of fame. A combination that threatened not only his life but the very existence of the band. If this story's already got you curious, hit like and subscribe. At the surface, it looked like the band was unstoppable. Albums were released, crowds grew, and the media celebrated a new era of British metalcore. Yet, the reality behind the scenes was far darker. Oli struggled to cope with the physical and emotional toll of constant touring, public scrutiny, and the expectations he placed on himself as the voice of a generation. Parties that seemed glamorous to outsiders masked nights of isolation, anxiety, and self-destruction. Each show was a performance, but offstage the cracks were widening. The seeds of reinvention were already there, buried beneath chaos and exhaustion. The tension within the band began to mount as they faced creative disagreements, the relentless pace of the music industry, and Oli's personal battles. It was a period defined by sleepless nights, destructive habits, and moments where the future of Bring Me the Horizon was in serious jeopardy. Fans could feel a shift, subtle yet palpable, in the energy of the music and live shows. What made this story compelling wasn't just the danger or the drama, it was the human element. Oli Sykes' journey was a mirror for anyone struggling to overcome personal demons while carrying a heavy responsibility. The band's story during this period wasn't just about rock music. It was about survival, reinvention, and the power of transformation through vulnerability. By facing his addiction and the shadows of his own choices, Oli began to lay the foundation for a new era of Bring Me the Horizon. The band's sound, aesthetic, and message would evolve dramatically, reflecting lessons learned from near ruin. This is the moment where tragedy and creativity collided, where despair fueled innovation, and where a band on the edge of collapse prepared to redefine itself entirely. In this video we dive into that critical point, the moment when Bring Me the Horizon teetered on the edge and Oli Sykes had to confront the person he had become to save the band he loved. This is the story of near ruin, redemption, and the remarkable reinvention that followed. By the early 2000s, the British metalcore scene was bubbling with raw energy, aggressive riffs, and a generation of bands hungry to redefine heavy music. Sheffield, a city known more for its industrial past than musical exports, became the unlikely birthplace of Bring Me the Horizon. Formed in 2004, the band quickly distinguished themselves with their ferocious sound and unapologetic intensity. Oli Sykes, barely out of his teens, carried the weight of the band's vision on his shoulders, combining visceral lyrics with an unmistakable stage presence that could command any crowd. The early years of BMTH were defined by relentless ambition. Their debut album, Count Your Blessings, was polarizing. Some praised its raw power while others dismissed it as chaotic or derivative. Yet even in these formative days, the seeds of originality were evident. The band's willingness to experiment with tempo, melody, and emotional expression set them apart from peers who often adhered to rigid metalcore formulas. Every show, every recording session, revealed a group determined to push boundaries, even when success was not guaranteed. But the context in which they rose was unforgiving. The mid-2000s metalcore scene was saturated with emerging acts, all fighting for attention in a globalizing music market. Record labels sought trends rather than individuality, and touring schedules were brutal. Bands were expected to tour constantly, release albums at a rapid pace, and maintain a public image that often conflicted with the personal realities of their members. For Oli and his bandmates, these pressures were amplified by youth, inexperience, and the intensity of early fame. It was a time when every decision carried consequences. A single misstep on stage, in a lyric, or in a personal choice could define the trajectory of the band. Yet, BMTH thrived in adversity, using Sheffield's gritty environment as a crucible to forge a sound that was raw, emotionally charged, and distinctly their own. Fans connected not just to the music, but to the story of a band fighting to survive, to create, and to leave a mark in an overcrowded scene. This historical context is essential to understand the stakes. The pressures that shaped BMTH in their early years didn't just test their music. They tested their resilience, their relationships, and Oli's personal limits. These were the conditions that would later make the band's near collapse so terrifying and, ultimately, their reinvention so extraordinary. By the mid-2000s, Bring Me the Horizon was no longer just a local Sheffield act. they were ascending rapidly into the international metalcore spotlight. Their second album, Suicide Season, released in 2008, marked a turning point. Heavier production, more refined songwriting, and an unmistakable aggression that set them apart from their contemporaries. Suddenly, BMTH was touring arenas across Europe and North America, gaining fans who were drawn not only to the ferocity of the music but to the raw honesty of Oli Sykes' lyrics. This period of rapid growth, however, came with its own pressures. The band faced relentless touring schedules, recording demands from labels, and the unspoken expectation to constantly top themselves. Every performance became a test of endurance, every album a judgment on their worth. Oli, who had poured his soul into every lyric and scream, began to feel the weight of being both the face and emotional center of the band. The exhilaration of success collided with personal vulnerability, setting the stage for the struggles that lay ahead. As the band's popularity grew, Oli found himself confronting the darker side of fame. Parties, alcohol, and drugs became temporary escapes from exhaustion and anxiety, masking the emotional toll that constant performance and public scrutiny were taking on him. The very drive that fueled BMTH's rise was now pushing Oli toward dangerous territory. What began as passion and determination was slowly morphing into self-destructive habits that would soon threaten the band's cohesion and his own life. Despite the outward image of triumph, the cracks were forming. Tensions with bandmates over creative decisions, fatigue from non-stop touring, and the increasing scrutiny of fans and media created a volatile environment. Each day brought a new challenge, a new obstacle that tested not just their musicianship but their resilience as a unit. The band's success was undeniable, but it came with a hidden cost that few outsiders could see. This is the moment when ambition, pressure, and personal demons collided, a turning point that would define BMTH's trajectory for years to come. The seeds of both collapse and reinvention were planted here, setting the stage for a story of near ruin, survival, and extraordinary transformation. Enjoying it? Then hit the like button and subscribe to catch the next stories. The cracks that had been quietly forming during the band's meteoric rise began to widen, and it became impossible to ignore the personal struggles behind the stage lights. Oli Sykes, once a young powerhouse of energy and charisma, started showing signs of exhaustion, anxiety, and self-destructive behavior. The endless touring, coupled with the pressure to constantly innovate, left him vulnerable to coping mechanisms that soon spiraled into addiction. What began as occasional indulgence quickly evolved into a daily reliance on substances. Alcohol, stimulants, and other drugs became both escape and crutch, temporarily masking the overwhelming stress and emotional weight Oli carried. These habits didn't just affect him personally, they started to bleed into the dynamics of the band. Rehearsals became tense, recording sessions stalled, and the once tight bond between members began to fray. Fans and media began noticing subtle changes as well. Live performances, though still powerful, sometimes hinted at cracks in Oli's focus and stamina. Interviews revealed a restless energy, moments of frustration, and glimpses of vulnerability that were rarely discussed openly. Behind the scenes, management and crew quietly worked to keep the band on track, aware that a single misstep could escalate into a crisis threatening both the group's future and Oli's health. The emotional toll extended far beyond the music. Relationships with friends, family, and even bandmates were tested as Oli wrestled with guilt, shame, and the fear of losing everything he had built. The very qualities that made him an inspiring frontman, passion, intensity, and authenticity, now became double-edged swords, driving both creativity and chaos. This period marked the first true turning point in BMTH's story. The outward success masked a private struggle that would define the band's next era. Oli's battle with addiction and the resulting tension within the group were not just obstacles, they were catalysts that would eventually push the band toward a reckoning, forcing choices that no one could have predicted and setting the stage for a dramatic transformation. Everything that had been simmering beneath the surface finally erupted. By the time Bring Me the Horizon was preparing for their next major tour and album cycle, tensions within the band had reached a critical point. Arguments over creative direction, compounded by Oli Sykes' escalating struggles with addiction, created an environment of uncertainty and fear. It was a period when even the smallest disagreements could spiral into serious conflicts, and the cohesion that had once defined the band seemed on the brink of collapse. Oli's personal battles were no longer hidden behind the curtain of stage lights. Late nights turned into missed rehearsals, impulsive decisions during recording sessions disrupted progress, and the once solid relationships between band members were strained to their limits. The pressure of meeting label expectations and fan demands intensified every fault line. There were moments when cancellation seemed inevitable, and whispers of the band breaking up began circulating among management and inner circles. The tipping point came during a particularly grueling tour. Exhaustion, substance abuse, and emotional volatility collided in a way that left Oli and the rest of the band questioning everything. Some shows were nearly cancelled, tensions backstage boiled over, and the morale of the crew and members plummeted. For Oli, it was not just a professional crisis, it was a personal reckoning. The life he had built around Bring Me the Horizon and his identity as a frontman was now under direct threat. Yet, paradoxically, it was this moment of crisis that laid the foundation for transformation. The band's near collapse became a mirror reflecting their vulnerabilities, fears, and the consequences of ignoring personal well-being. It was the ultimate test of resilience, forcing each member to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves, their relationships, and the direction they wanted for the future. This was the dark moment before the rise, a breaking point that, if mismanaged, could have ended everything. But it also became the catalyst that would eventually drive Oli Sykes to confront his demons, reshape his life, and lead Bring Me the Horizon toward an unexpected reinvention, transforming near ruin into a story of survival and triumph. The aftermath of the crisis left deep and lasting marks on both Oli Sykes and Bring Me the Horizon. The band emerged from the brink of collapse, but not unscathed. Internally, relationships had been tested to their limits. Trust had been fractured, communication strained, and the sense of unity that had once defined the group required painstaking repair. Every member carried the weight of those turbulent months, memories of fights, missed opportunities, and moments when everything seemed lost. For Oli, the scars were both physical and emotional. Addiction had taken its toll, leaving him exhausted, anxious, and acutely aware of the destructive patterns he had allowed to govern his life. But more than the personal struggle, there was the guilt. Guilt toward his bandmates, toward fans who had placed their trust and admiration in him, and toward the music that had always been his sanctuary. The realization that his personal battles had endangered not only his career but the lives and dreams of those around him was a painful awakening. The public perception of the band also shifted. Fans, though loyal, sensed the instability. Some questioned the longevity of BMTH, while others debated the authenticity of the band's image. Media outlets highlighted the turbulence, turning personal struggles into headlines, and the pressure to prove themselves anew weighed heavily on every member. Financially, creatively, and emotionally, the band had to navigate a landscape that had become both unfamiliar and unforgiving. Yet these scars were not purely negative. They became lessons etched into the fabric of the band's identity. The near ruin forced BMTH to confront uncomfortable truths, to reassess priorities, and to understand the limits of endurance and creativity. The pain, once overwhelming, began to fuel a new level of artistic vision, pushing Oli and the band to channel experiences of loss, chaos, and redemption into music that was more honest, resonant, and emotionally powerful than ever before. This period of consequence was not the end, it was the crucible. The challenges and scars left by the crisis would later serve as the foundation for a reinvention that transformed Bring Me the Horizon from a struggling metalcore act into a band capable of redefining themselves, their sound, and their place in modern rock. After the turbulence and scars of near collapse, Bring Me the Horizon entered a period of introspection and transformation. Oli Sykes began confronting the realities of his addiction and the personal choices that had brought the band to the edge. Recovery was neither quick nor easy. It required brutal honesty, therapy, and a willingness to face the vulnerabilities he had long tried to mask behind stage theatrics and screaming vocals. This period became a turning point, not just personally for Oli but creatively for the entire band. The band's sound began to evolve as well. No longer content with repeating past formulas, BMTH embraced experimentation, blending electronic elements, ambient textures, and melodic structures into their metalcore foundation. Albums like Sempiternal marked a new era, one where emotional authenticity and musical innovation went hand in hand. Fans witnessed a group that was not only surviving but thriving, turning pain into art and chaos into carefully crafted sonic landscapes. Revelations came in unexpected forms. Interviews, behind-the-scenes footage, and live performances began to reveal the depth of Oli's journey, showing a man who had faced his darkest moments and emerged with renewed clarity. The band's narrative shifted from near ruin to resilience, inspiring fans and fellow musicians alike. What had once been private struggles became a shared story of survival and reinvention, connecting with audiences on an emotional and almost spiritual level. The creative rebirth extended beyond music. Stage production, visual aesthetics, and lyrical themes all reflected the band's new identity, a group unafraid to explore vulnerability, spirituality, and personal growth within the context of heavy music. This reinvention was not just a comeback, it was a redefinition, proving that even at the brink of destruction, a band with courage, vision, and unity could emerge stronger than ever. In many ways, this phase represented the most significant victories of BMTH's career: the ability to transform personal struggles into artistic triumph, to repair fractured relationships, and to reclaim control over their destiny. The lessons learned during this reconstruction would guide the band's path forward, influencing every decision, every album, and every performance for years to come. The story of Bring Me the Horizon is, at its core, a testament to resilience and transformation. From the brink of collapse, Oli Sykes and his bandmates faced personal demons, fractured relationships, and the pressures of a demanding music industry. Yet, through confronting vulnerability, embracing recovery, and channeling pain into creativity, they not only survived, they redefined themselves. What emerges from this journey is more than music. It is a narrative of hope, perseverance, and reinvention. Oli's struggles, once private and isolating, became the catalyst for a new artistic identity, one that resonates with fans on a deeply emotional level. The band's evolution shows that even when everything seems lost, dedication to self-awareness, teamwork, and authenticity can lead to extraordinary growth. Bring Me the Horizon's transformation serves as a reminder that crisis is not the end but often the beginning of reinvention. Every riff, every lyric, and every performance in this new era carries the weight of lessons learned, scars healed, and challenges overcome. Fans who once witnessed chaos on stage now see a band that channels struggle into power, pain into purpose, and uncertainty into bold creativity. Ultimately, the story closes not just on the survival of a band, but on the triumph of human resilience. Oli Sykes' journey demonstrates that confronting one's darkest moments can ignite profound change, both personally and artistically. The near ruin of Bring Me the Horizon becomes a narrative of victory, proving that redemption is possible when vulnerability meets courage and determination. This is the legacy of a band that refused to be defined by failure, turning near collapse into a defining moment of growth, innovation, and inspiration. A story that continues to unfold, resonating with fans who see not only the music but the human story behind it.